Good evening. Welcome to the First Parish in Bedford. Welcome to all who come to prepare ourselves for this new season of life. Welcome to all who come with questions or uncertainties about the meaning of the Christian Holy Week. Welcome to all who come saddled with personal loss or grief. Welcome to all who come wanting, yearning for a sense of new hope, and to all who are already there. However you are, whoever you are, welcome. Tonight's service is loosely based on Christian Good Friday Tennebrae services that date back to early church history. Tennebrae is Latin for shadows, and it marks the increasing isolation of Jesus during the last week of his life. Tennebrae is a service of mourning, of remembering the loss, grief, and suffering of this old world. Though often in our worship we counter the litany of suffering with stories of love and joy, Tennebrae is a time to be with your broken heart. Easter joy will come on Saturday, but before then, on Sunday, on Sunday, but before then there is no pressure to rebound from despair. Reflect in any way you need. Let the music carry you, or simply rest together in the candlelight. The story of the crucifixion of Jesus is one of the great dramas of rejection and despair. It has to come before the Easter song on Sunday, because the great promise of new life and great love would mean nothing if there were not the understanding of this absence. Ancient and modern, all people have shared in the contrast. In retelling the story tonight, we will follow loosely the order of events during the last week of Jesus' life. Our scriptural sources invite us into the metaphor of the biblical story. There are 7 shadows up here that represent the stages and sentiments of the Good Friday events. You will hear some modern reflections as well. You will have a chance to place a stone of remembrance in honor of anyone you have lost. When the service is over, the sanctuary will be very dark. We will have a time in complete darkness for a moment or two, and then our church bell will toll. And you are welcome to exit quietly as we light the perimeter of the room, or remain as long as you like in the quiet and darkness after the service is finished. The tradition is to leave in silence. Please help keep the sanctuary dark and quiet for all who wish to stay for a while. This evening, we will move through the valley of the shadow of death, experiencing that journey, but opening also to the spirit of renewal and hope, found in a community such as ours, where people come to love and to serve.
We live in many darknesses. We are often uncertain. We are sometimes afraid.
In the darkness, we light a candle of hope.
We all have sorrows. We have known pain. Each of us carries our own particular regrets.
In our pain, we light a candle of sorrow.
We have all been hurt, and we have all hurt others. We know the pain of remorse and the longing for reconciliation.
In our suffering, we light a candle of forgiveness.
We are sometimes lonely, and the world seems cold and harsh.
In our loneliness, we light a candle of love.
We have our joys, our times of happiness. Each of us receives gifts.
In our gratitude, we light a candle of thanks.
We have known awe, wonder, mystery, glimmerings of perfection in this imperfect world.
In our wonder, we light a candle of praise.
And now, we light our chalice, a beacon in the darkness for all who suffer, and in honor of the perseverance of the human spirit that sustains us all. In silence and prayer, story and song, together we will acknowledge the shadows of life. Good people die for terrible reasons. Grief and sorrow linger. Betrayal by a loved one cuts us deep. Our bodies are vulnerable. Death awaits us all. What burdens your heart? What troubles your sleep? Let us walk in these shadows together.
Jesus went with his disciples to a place called Gethsemane. And he said to them, "Sit here while I pray." He took with him Peter, James, and John. And he began to be distressed and agitated. And he said to them, "I am deeply grieved, even to death. Remain here, keep awake." And going a little farther, he threw himself on the ground and prayed that, if it were possible, the hour might pass from him. He said, "Abba, Father, for you all things are possible. Remove this cup from me. Yet not what I want, but what you want." He came and found them sleeping. And he said to Peter, "Simon, are you asleep? Could you not keep awake 1 hour? Keep awake and pray that you may not come into the time of trial. The spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak." And again he went away and prayed, saying the same words. Once more he came and he found them sleeping, for their eyes were very heavy, and they did not know what to say to him. He said to them, "Are you still sleeping and taking your rest? Enough! The hour has come. The Son of Man is betrayed into the hands of sinners. Get up, let us be going. See, my betrayer is at hand."
Immediately, while he was still speaking, Judas, one of the 12, arrived. And with him there was a crowd with swords and clubs from the chief priests, the scribes, and the elders. Now the betrayer had given them a sign, saying, "The one I will kiss is the man. Arrest him and lead him away under guard." So when he came, he went up to him at once and said, "Rabbi," and kissed him. Then they laid hands on him and arrested him. But one of those who stood near drew his sword and struck the slave of the high priest, cutting off his ear. Then Jesus said to him, "Have you come out with swords and clubs to arrest me as though I were a bandit? Day after day I was with you in the temple teaching, and you did not arrest me. But let the scriptures be fulfilled." All of them deserted him and fled.
As soon as it was morning, the chief priests held a consultation with the elders and scribes. They bound Jesus, led him away, and handed him over to Pilate. Pilate asked him, "Are you the king of the Jews?" He answered him, "You say so." Then the chief priests accused him of many things. Pilate asked him again, "Have you no answer? See how many charges they bring against you?" But Jesus made no further reply, so that Pilate was amazed. Now at the festival, he used to release a prisoner for them, anyone for whom they asked. Now a man called Barabbas was in prison with the rebels who had committed murder during the insurrection. So the crowd came and began to ask Pilate to do for them according to his custom. Then he answered them, "Do you want me to release for you the King of the Jews?" For he realized that it was out of jealousy that the chief priests had handed him over. But the chief priests stirred up the crowd to have him release Barabbas for them instead. Pilate spoke to them again. "Then what do you wish me to do with the man you call the King of the Jews?" They shouted back, "Crucify him." Pilate asked them, "Why? What evil has he done?" But they shouted all the more, "Crucify him." So Pilate, wishing to satisfy the crowd, released Barabbas, and after flogging Jesus, he handed him over to be crucified.
Then the soldiers led him into the courtyard of the governor's headquarters, and they called together the whole cohort. And they clothed him in a purple cloak, and after twisting some thorns into a crown, they put it on him. And they began saluting him, "Hail, King of the Jews!" They struck his head with a reed, spat upon him, and knelt down in homage to him. After mocking him, they stripped him of the purple cloak and put his own clothes on him. Then they led him out to crucify him. They brought Jesus to the place called Golgotha, which means the place of a skull. And they offered him wine, but he did not take it. And they crucified him and divided his clothes among them, casting lots to decide what each should take. It was 9 o'clock in the morning when they crucified him. The inscription of the charge against him read, "The King of the Jews." And with him they crucified 2 bandits, one on his right and one on his left. Those who passed by derided him, shaking their heads and saying, "Aha! You who would destroy the temple and build it in 3 days, save yourself and come down from the cross." In the same way, the chief priests, along with the scribes, were also mocking him amongst themselves and saying, "He saved others. He cannot save himself. Let the Messiah, the King of Israel, come down from the cross now so that we may see and believe." Those who were crucified with him also taunted him. When it was noon, darkness came over the whole land until 3 in the afternoon. At 3 o'clock, Jesus cried out with a loud voice, "Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani," which means, my God, why have you forsaken me?" When some of the bystanders heard it, they said, "Listen, he is calling for Elijah." And someone ran, filled a sponge with sour wine, put it on a stick, and gave it to him to drink, saying, "Wait, let us see whether Elijah will come to take him down." Then Jesus gave a loud cry and breathed his last. And the curtain of the temple was torn in 2 from top to bottom. Now, when the centurion who stood facing him saw that in this way he breathed his last, he said, "Truly, this man was God's son."
Some women were watching from a distance. Among them were Mary Magdalene, Mary the mother of James the Younger and of Joseph, and Salome. In Galilee, these women had followed him and cared for his needs. Many other women who had come up with him to Jerusalem were also there. When evening had come, and since it was the day of preparation, that is, the day before the Sabbath, Joseph of Arimathea, a respected member of the council, who was also himself waiting expectantly for the kingdom of God, went boldly to Pilate and asked for the body of Jesus. So, as evening approached, Pilate was surprised. Pilate was surprised to learn that Jesus was already dead when Joseph of Arimathea came to ask for the body. He summoned the centurion and asked him if Jesus had died. When he learned from the centurion that it was so, he gave the body to Joseph. Then Joseph brought a linen cloth and, taking down the body, wrapped it in the linen cloth and laid it in a tomb that had been hewn out of the rock. He then rolled a stone against the door of the tomb. Mary Magdalene and Mary the mother of Joseph saw where the body was laid.
Spring by Mary Oliver. And here is the serpent again, dragging himself out from his nest of darkness, his cave under the dark rocks, his winter death. He slides over the pine needles. He loops round the branches of rising grass, looking for the sun. Well, who doesn't want the sun after a long winter? I step aside. He feels the air with his soft tongue. Around the bones of his body, he moves like oil. Down he goes toward the black mirrors of the pond. Last night it was still so cold, I woke and went out to stand in the yard, and there was no moon. So I just stood there inside the jaw of nothing. An owl cried in the distance, and I thought of Jesus, how he crouched in the dark for 2 nights and floated back above the horizon. There are so many stories, more beautiful than answers. I follow the snake down to the pond. Thick and musky he is, as circular as hope.
God who is as powerful as the Big Bang and as vulnerable as a baby born in a stable. God who shows up as stars and bees and oceans and people with teachings so threatening to the status quo that they are executed by the state. God, who is present wherever there is human care, generosity, and love. We are people grieving losses. We are people fighting for justice. We are people trying to heal our bodies and spirits and hearts. We are people in need of support. We are trying to love better, trying to find our way. Move in our bodies. Pull us away from shame spirals and anxiety loops and rage binges. Pull us into a deep ocean of love where our tears can be held. Into a strong mountain of love where our anger can echo powerfully. Into a soft blanket of love that can wrap up our fears. Hold for us all that is too much, all that is unbearable, all that our bodies cannot contain. Help us to set down that which is no longer ours to carry, and make this dark silence a place of sacred mourning and rest. Amen. We now move into a time of silence in which you are invited to take a stone from the basket on the side of the stairs to your right, my left. You can place a stone here on the steps in the front of the chancel in memory of a loss that is in your heart today. This could be someone who has died this year, or even years ago. It could be a different kind of loss that causes grief. We take this practice, borrowed from the Jewish tradition of placing stones on graves, with deep respect for those who practice this tradition, this same religion that Jesus practiced so many years ago. We will place our stones in silence, or in addition, or instead, you can light votive candles to my right, your left, for those you hold in your hearts. Our silence will end with our closing words.
The shadows are not unfriendly, as once I had thought. They are deepest just before dark, and the dark is filled with a fear of the untraveled and unknown. But I have found as the circling years unfold, there is nothing of fear in the darkness, unless it be its utter emptiness. But this will never be. If love has touched you with her gentleness, the shadows are not unfriendly, as I once had thought. For there is healing in the midst of shadows, and love in the midst of pain.